You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Listen, I absolutely love the blacks, especially when you people vote for me and not Trump.
What is up? My name is Eric. This channel is called Report and Opine. I am back. This, of course, is the epicenter for all of your current and captivating coastal elite chaos. So please hit that subscribe button, like the video, ring the notification bell, leave a comment or two, share this with a friend. Let's go. All right, we are constantly being gaslit, and I realize the term is entirely overused, but I can't think of a better word to describe what's going on, and it does involve a heaping helping of race baiting. It is nonstop. We're supposed to ignore any and all flaws with a politician of color, and I mean, for regular people, these things would be flaws, but for the establishment, they're actually strengths, and we're also supposed to ignore any and all flaws with regular people of color. Right? I mean, they get huge payouts after destroying huge portions of cities across the country. But now we got people like Big Fat Fanny Pack Willis and Tiffany Henyard, the super mayor out in Illinois, I believe, and those two situations have become completely chaotic, total clown shows. Then there's Mayor London Breed, who, of course, paid nearly $23,000 in ethics violations fines, which is a drop in the bucket for her. She is the highest paid mayor in the country, and it goes without saying, but I will say it once again, if that's what she admitted to, if that's what she is willing to pay up for, imagine what she won't admit to. Then we also got, of course, Kamala Harris. She is a shield of defense. We got Karine Jean-Pierre, who is the same thing. She spews nothing but word salad. She's very similar to Kamala Harris, except she's dating a woman. And then there's Ketanji Brown Jackson, who couldn't even tell us what a woman was, but fast forward a couple years and now the entire establishment campaign revolves around the idea of a woman's right to choose. So it's absolutely nonstop. It drives me up a wall. But we're always told, oh, racism is the problem. But also, Bo Jiden is the best man for the job. So when you talk about racism and structural racism and systemic racism and climate racism, but somehow an 80-year-old man, which in most cases, not always, but in most cases, an 80-year-old man is not the best person for the job. But either way, if you want to talk about racism, or perhaps more specifically, more in the ether, more undefinable systemic racism, Bo Jiden is a huge part of that system. That man has been in politics since for longer than most of the population at this point in time has even been alive. So obviously, this is a huge problem. There is not enough time in the world to talk about every single bit of hypocrisy that these people are putting out. There's enough hypocrisy to fill up a Costco, to fill up a warehouse with these people's non-stop conflicting agendas. But that's the point, right? If you can suspend your disbelief and make sure that everything they say, no matter if what they say today is a complete 180 from what they said yesterday and another 180 from what they're going to say tomorrow, just keep following along. The goalposts are constantly going to move. But what's happening now is that even as the facade completely collapses, they're still going to try to gaslight us even harder because it's too late at this point. They can't take their foot off the gas. Like I said, their heels are dug in. They have to go full bore because that is their only option at this juncture. So on one hand, it's all about black power, man. Everything is racism. But on the other hand, Bo Jiden is our guy.
This is your man.
Yes.
Look at the screen.
That's mine. I'm gonna stick beside him.
And that's what you're going to settle for.
I'm gonna stick beside him.
I mean, he's amazing. He's a man of character. We're all going to pretend he did not say.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
And you could have got away with all of this gaslighting, all of this lying, if you just would have said, okay, you know what? Orange man bad. Vote blue no matter who. You don't know what's really going on behind the scenes. It's really all good. But nope. They have to lay it on super thick, and it becomes completely unbelievable and totally irrational. This is from CNN all the way back in April of 2021. At the beginning of this madness, they say White House backtracks after Biden calls border situation a crisis. So he correctly called it a crisis. It's probably worse than that now. I don't know what's worse than crisis, but it is discernibly worse in 2024 than it was in 2021. So when Biden correctly called it a crisis, which he knew because he helped to create it, they got mad at him. And so he backtracked and said it wasn't a crisis. So what's that all about? It is a border crisis by design. I have long said this. This is from City Journal, so I believe a pretty conservative right-wing publication, but this is all on purpose, right? There is no level of incompetence. There is no level of, oh, we just need to help these poor, starving people. That flew out of the window a really long time ago, if it ever existed. So first, Biden says, first he says there is a crisis, which is correct, and he helped create. Then he says, oh, well, there's not a crisis. That was all the way back in 2021. Now, there is a crisis, but it's the Republicans' fault, and that's all because it is by design. And as I suppose the theme today is gaslighting, and maybe we'll come up with a better word, less overused word to describe what they're doing. But this from MoneyWise via Yahoo Finance, they say, 7 signs you're financially wealthy, even if you don't feel like it. How many do you have? Now, it doesn't even matter what they mention, because the point here is you might think that you don't have enough money, but what they're really saying is this is the new normal. Get used to it. We've ushered it in, and next step is communism. So don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe your pocketbook, your Apple Pay or whatever. You're doing really well. Just trust us. It's the same thing with CNN. They say, oh, well, this happened way back in the Great Depression. Why are you flipping out that it's happening again? It's all okay. Here is where it really gets good. This is greaseball scumbag bang your wife Newsom talking to MSNBC, and they say, Newsom, Trump is more unhinged, more dangerous. And that's the thing now, right? It's like, Trump won't let you kill your baby. He's really dangerous. That's the talking point. That's what they're going with. But here, I mean, in just a magnificent level of, I guess, acting or gaslighting or manipulation or whatever it is, Gavin Newsom is going to try to make you believe that everything's on the level. And it's not just like, hey, you know what? This is our guy. We're riding with him. That would have been the case in 2020. But now Biden has become so bad that these people have to go on the opposite end of the spectrum to counteract the clear demise that we can all see. And for the record, nobody on the left. Okay, it's quite clear that the right-wing people do not like Beau Biden. He's absolutely terrible. But it's also pretty clear that most of the left-wing people don't like Beau Biden. If for no other reason, it's mostly the Israel-Gaza thing. So he goes out there and tries to buy some votes and say, I'm going to give away more $1 billion of student loan debt. That's what's happening here. But rather than just say, you know, Biden's, and it's campaign season, so I do get it. But what I don't understand is how anybody cannot see clear through this.
I do have to ask you, we hear from the polling, anecdotally, that one of the issues the Biden administration has lost a lot of confidence. Young voters, voters of color, voters in places like Detroit.
Oh, young voters and voters of color, right? So we had a stranglehold on all of them, you know, even a tighter grip on everything when everybody didn't walk around with a computer in their pocket. But now we can all kind of see it, and Biden's losing them. So what gives, Gavin? And you'll see this woman is obviously a complete and total hack. It's just ridiculous. I can't even look at these people without seeing lizards, but that's a different story.
Detroit, the key to the president's win, are very upset about his position on Gaza.
Yeah.
You've watched.
Yeah. Okay, so the younger voters and the voters of color are really upset with Gaza. Sure, I guess that's part of it. And you're also forgetting that, you know, the climate extremists, the weather zealots don't like him either.
Just from afar, I know you're not in the administration, but do you think that they made a misstep there?
Well, I've watched it close up, too. I went to Israel and met with the president and prime minister right after October 7th. Saw those videos, those unredacted videos that I can't get out of my head, and the atrocities of Hamas. And I absolutely applaud the president's clarity and conviction as it relates to Hamas being a terrorist organization that needs to be eliminated. That said, I'm also, and this is me speaking, not on behalf of anyone else.
Understand.
I'm a father of 4, and you can't watch these images of what's happening in Gaza without your heart breaking. I mean it. And with respect.
All right, so good job politically, Gavin, to basically take both sides and make sure that people in opposing factions of that issue don't go against you, but it's already too late.
Back to Bibi Netanyahu, I met with, for him to double down on stupid by somehow suggesting that two-state solution is not the solution that's preferable is a huge tactical mistake.
So my point here is, does he think that this is going to win over even a middle of the road conservative? Probably not. Is this going to win over a weirdo Palestinian extremist who's blocking up traffic on the Bay Bridge? Probably not. So who is this really for? It's for the handful of people left that still think MSNBC is real news, I guess.
Political, situationally in the United States of America, but globally, that has profound, I believe, consequences. And I appreciate President Biden's clarity and conviction on that. I also appreciate his clarity and conviction trying to end this war, moving beyond the situational rhetoric around a ceasefire, ending this war and rebuilding Gaza and allowing the autonomy and freedom.
Ending this war, okay, I guess by funding Ukraine, funding Israel, and funding Gaza. Giving a little bit of money to everybody is supposed to end the war.
Freedom that the Palestinians deserve.
You are an excellent emissary in terms of passion, engagement, articulation, all.
This is crazy. This is absolutely insane. You are excellent in terms of passion and engagement. This woman is so far off the plot of a real journalist, it's completely laughable. She is praising this man, and we'll see here that, you know, the praise that she gives to Gavin Newsom, he is going to pass on to Bo Biden. And this is where, look, you could have gotten away with all of the political middle of the road, oh yeah, both sides, all that stuff, fine, whatever, right? Typical political greaseball stuff. But now, he is going to lay it on so thick, thicker than her. So she's going to say, oh, Gavin, you're so amazing. You're so good at everything. And then he's going to do the same thing about Joe Biden as if none of us can actually see what's going on.
All of the things that, you know, make for a good campaigner, though we know you're not running for president yourself.
No chance.
No chance.
Yeah. Who in their mind would want to run when you have someone of such esteem as our incumbent president of the United States, with a record of accomplishments and a man of character?
Give us some of the accomplishments. And the character, what are you talking about? They found a bag of coke in the White House. They found the classified documents in his garage. He can't put together a sentence. What accomplishments? What character are you talking about? He's talking about the system that he helped build that we constantly hear is racist, but somehow he is still the right man for the job. Why don't you step down and let, Candace, is Candace old enough? Why don't you let a person of color take the reins? They would never do that. Now, obviously, Candace has much better things to do than run for president. But it's like, Gavin, the reason he's doing this is because he knows we can see. And he thinks that if he just goes out and gets even more extreme, then it's all going to go away. They have to tell another lie to cover up the old lie, and it just keeps going and going and going. And they're so far off the plot that we will see there's now an 83-year-old woman pretending that kids can be trans.
A man of decency. I'm old school. Talk about loyalty. I'll go to ends of the earth for this guy. I really would. I'm not.
And that's probably true. He is probably very loyal, because in that completely corrupt cabal of elitists, they have to look after one another, which is why part of the reason why they hate Donald Trump so much.
Making that up.
So there you have it. Governor Gavin Newsom is not trying to take President Biden's place on the ballot.
This is like weird CIA talking head. Oh, Gavin's not going to do it. Taylor Swift, like, oh, it's a conspiracy. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a conspiracy. She literally endorsed Joe Biden in 2020, and they're hoping she does it again. But I don't think there's enough money in the world for her to say that, because, of course, she's not stupid and she knows which way the wind is blowing. But this talking head here wants you to know that, oh, there's nothing in the works, which is fine. Okay, you're still going to roll with the old guy empty suit, completely corrupt hack, I guess. Fair enough.
this November. Someone please tell Fox News.
And there she goes at the very end. She has to throw a shot at Fox News. Like, why don't I mean, remember the old days when maybe a Democrat would go on Fox News and Republicans certainly go on CNN and sometimes MSNBC, I think, if they would be led on, but they don't want any semblance of truth to get on the inside of their bubble. And here is Crypt Keeper Pelosi herself directly from her YouTube channel, which oddly enough has the comments turned off for some weird reason. Can't imagine why. But she is talking to another CIA talking head, Anderson Cooper, about how amazing Joe Biden is. And again, you wouldn't have to do this if people didn't see it. Okay, so at first I think, well, we can all see it. Why are you lying to us? But that's exactly why they're doing it, is because they have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing.
His age is his age, yes. I'll tell you this, though. I've worked with the president for a long time, especially closely as speaker when he was president and now since then. And he knows. I mean, he's always on the ball. He knows.
Speaker since he was president and since then, I don't know, like when the House, the Senate flipped, or if she's talking about when Beau Biden was vice president. I'm not really sure, but she's going to do her weird little monkey paw thing and tell you that Joe Biden, the new talking point now, or maybe it's not new, but the talking point now, the memo is that Beau Biden is sharp. He's very sharp.
He knows these issues. He knows the legislation. He helped write some of it. He campaigned on it. He remembers it. Anyone who would...
And there, she just said it right there. Oh, he knows the legislation. He helped write some of it. Yes, correct, because he is part of the system that we're constantly told is racist.
Think that they're at some advantage because of his age, thinks that at their peril because he's very sharp.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was in the foothills of the Himalayas with Xi Jinping.
There are, look, I'm sure you hear this from Democrats all the time. There are Democrats, a lot of Democrats who have concerns, though, about his age, about his mental fitness. How much of, him stumbling over words or, saying Mexican.
Okay, so Anderson Cooper here is trying, because he knows, right? These people know. They're not stupid. He's evil and he bought a baby with his boyfriend or whatever. It's all completely weird. But he knows, so Nancy Pelosi wants to say, oh, he's so sharp and he's great. And Anderson's like, well, how come we don't see that? We only see this stumbling, bumbling idiot.
The best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway.
Mexico instead of Egypt. What do you say to people about their concerns?
Well, I think that people do make mistakes. I think his age is one thing. That's an objective fact. His making a mistake from time to time, we all do that. When the former ex-president defeated President Trump made a mistake about one thing or another, he would make the same mistake 7 times. It wasn't a slip of the tongue. It was a complete going down a path of something that wasn't even true intentionally.
And look, Nancy's losing him too, right? Gavin Newsom might have a small base of women who think he's handsome and cannot connect the dots to how he's destroyed San Francisco and California as a whole for his own personal benefit. But who is left in Nancy's camp, right? So the lonely old ladies who still like Gavin because he looks handsome, but who is still going to bat for Nancy, right? She walked around the hair salon without a mask when she was telling people to stay home. There's people protesting outside of her house with hair dryers. There's been people who have left. There's been pro-Palestine protesters who have left truckloads of horse manure or something outside of her house. It gets spray painted constantly. Nobody likes this woman, but she is clearly clinging to power that she, over decades has amassed. And it was easier for her to get away with all of her weirdo schemes and scams when everybody didn't have a computer in their pocket. And now that we can all sort of see it and the facade is completely cracking, she has to just become so extreme, it's unbelievable.
Or otherwise. So I think that, again, age is an objective fact. As I say, it's all relative. He's younger than I am, so what do I have to say about his age?
Yeah, okay, so Beau Biden is younger than Nancy Pelosi, which means you guys should both be gone. But as much as I can't stand this weirdo drunk crypt keeper lady, she is obviously more with it than Bo Jiden.
But he is, again, knowledgeable, wise.
We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Experience is so important. So Joe Biden has vision, he has knowledge, he has a strategic thinker. This is
he has vision, he has knowledge, he's a strategic thinker? Really? Is that right?
And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
She knows we all see it. That's why she's selling it. But who does she think she's selling it to? In her head, who is the market? Who is the person that is going to say, well, yeah, I mean, I just saw Bo Jiden stumble and bumble, even with note cards and a teleprompter, but behind the scenes, it's all really good, which they could have said, right? They could have said, oh, well, you don't know what's going on, but it's all good, and left it there. But they go over the top to let you know that it's all amazing. He's so strong and brave and beautiful, even though he is the picture of the system that you guys hate so much. I can't do it.
a very sharp president. In terms of his public presentation, if he makes a
very sharp president, but in the public, I think that's pretty good too.
Slip of the tongue here or there, what's the deal? He has
You see a difference.
What he needs mentally and what he has in his heart empathetically for the American people.
You see a difference in his public presentation from what you see when you sit across the table from him or in a meeting with him.
Yeah.
I did a podcast interview with him for about 30 minutes. And again, it was on emotional subject. It was about grief. But he was very...
Anderson, why were you talking to the president about an emotional subject about grief? I don't know. I didn't look into that podcast, but you interviewed him for 30 minutes about his son rather than the border or inflation or crime or any of that, rather than his own personal corruption. You started talking about emotional topics. Why? But
he involved. I mean, he was fully present, fully cognizant,
sharp.
and sharp, and that really made.
He's so sharp. That's the thing. You can watch compilations, like 3-4 minute compilations of all these weirdo news talking heads saying that he's very sharp, which again, I guess in a glass half full way is a good thing because they know it's over. So you just wouldn't have to do this. You wouldn't have to constantly affirm a 6'5" man telling him he's a woman if he was actually a woman. You see the point?
An impression on me, his public presentation.
I guess I should clear my mind here a little bit and not say what I'm really thinking.
Oh, the mind is already clear. I'm afeared. I mean, this is. You said it earlier. It's elder abuse.
I haven't seen that one.
This was from today. He talked about Donald Trump supposedly giving Putin permission to invade Europe, and then he froze. That painful freeze where he's looking for words.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
he just kind of sits there and goes, "My mind. This is so awful to watch." But
I mean, is that what you're saying? It's very different than what you see in meetings?
Yeah, but I think his public presentation is okay. I think in meetings you see firsthand.
Yeah, I mean, what we see is, he's completely diminished. He's even stronger, what you don't see. When the cameras are off, he's even stronger. But when he's in front of the camera, when he's behind the podium, I think it's pretty good too.
That he's on top of the situation. He knows what's going on. And why we've been having this conversation, we're talking about Joe Biden, the President of the United States, compared to...
And there you have it. This woman, right, she rips up the State of the Union behind Donald Trump. She can't even say his name, right? They can't make an argument. They have nothing. They just talk in... obscurities, political platitudes. Oh, his record of accomplishments, and he's so sharp. What? This interview is a total of 18 minutes, but you can't name one thing. And I did watch it all. It's not all worth, responding to, but they don't name one accomplishment, right? You hear the talking heads, the black libtards on Twitter, on Instagram, the Angela Rise and the Bakari Sellers of the world talking about, oh, well, Trump is so dangerous and Biden has so many accomplishments. And they just say these words, but words to them mean nothing. Quite literally, man and woman don't mean anything anymore.
It isn't just the comparison. It's about what he brings to the table. Years of experience, depth of knowledge that is, again, very deep, breadth of experience that serves us well. Beauty.
It looks like Anderson's doing his like Tucker Carlson impression because he knows, he's like, this is all complete nonsense, but I'll let her cook.
Of his judgment and his vision for our country.
If I'm elected president, you're going to see the single most important thing that changes in America is we're going to cure cancer.
I tell you, I care about this country so much. Since a little girl, I've loved the flag all the way, and I always say...
I bet you do care about the country, Nancy. I bet you do, because it has lined your pockets for decades now. This one, what the typical retirement age is somewhere between 60 and 70. This woman is 83 at the time of recording this video, and she is older than Beau Biden, still pushing for weirdo Ukrainian slush fund bills, getting her husband and son off criminal charges, and of course, talking about cutting the junk off kids. Now, when Nancy Pelosi was 25 or 30 years old, that wouldn't have even been a conversation, but we will see. She is now going to bat for the trans lobby as an 83-year-old woman who quite clearly knows better.
Say my favorite line in the national anthem is, and our flag is still there. Our flag is still there. That's when I cheer at the game. And so this is a person who's super patriotic, very knowledgeable. And sometimes when I'm talking to him, he'll say, you don't have to tell me that. I know that. I know that full well, even if I'm trying to make an extra point on something. So if I didn't care about America so much, I wouldn't be as enthusiastic about Joe Biden.
This is insane. Just listening to these people. I mean, I wish I could go back. I wish I could get to a point where I believed this or where I could see what they're trying to sell, because right now it is only lizard people, right? Okay, I literally was banned from Instagram for a meme about lizard people. But how do you look at this and truly think that Anderson Cooper and Crypt Keeper Monkey Paw Nancy Pelosi really care about the country? And Orange Man bad, so we're gonna charge him $600 million or whatever it is. And Joe Biden's so good, he's so sharp, he's a man of character. It's just ridiculous.
So how do you explain the performance in Iowa, and why should the voters believe that you can win the national election?
It's a good question. Number one, Iowa's a Democratic caucus. You ever been to a caucus? No, you haven't. You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were.
They've gone completely rabid. I assume there was a point back in the 80s or the 90s, maybe even the early 2000s, where this was rational. But Trump has broken them to the point where they have to take the contrary stand no matter what.
He's been a national security risk. He was a personal risk that day for so many. People were injured, over 100 police officers, law enforcement people were injured. Some people died.
Oh, yeah, people. Oh, she cares about the police officers now, right? But you didn't care. You didn't care when it was the middle of Rona and people were burning down cities for a dope fiend and then celebrating Beau Biden's victory in the streets with champagne. That didn't matter. But, oh, man.
I'm triggered.
Yeah. And this person doesn't even know who he's talking about there. And is anybody making a fuss? Is anybody making a fuss? For some reason, it's okay if you're 77 and making a mistake 5 times in a row, whatever he did then. But if you're Joe Biden, then they hold you to a higher standard. But they always hold Democrats to a higher standard. We can live up to it. And I'm very proud of the president. And
no, they don't. You quite literally get a lower standard. They constantly say nobody is above the law. But clearly, some people are.
When it comes to these documents, the president has been open. President Biden has been open. He has given access to his venues, his home, here and there, his
Okay, That's enough of that. She's going to go on about how it's definitely different when they talk about classified documents, which I could care less about. But, Trump's home gets raided in Mar-a-Lago because he has classified documents. But it's totally different when Bo Biden, who wasn't even the president at the time, he was vice president, and didn't have the authority to declassify those documents. He had those in his garage next to his Corvette, but it's completely different because Bo Biden cooperated. We didn't send the FBI SWAT team into his house to get the documents. Okay, last one. For good measure, this is Nancy the Crypt Keeper Pelosi herself directly from her YouTube channel pretending that we need to have justice for trans kids. An 83-year-old woman. This is not a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old college kid who has been indoctrinated by a weirdo kindergarten teacher and, teachers all the way up through college, professors, whatever. This is an 83-year-old woman pretending that little boys should go into the female locker room.
I stand here today in opposition to the legislation that is on the floor and listening carefully to the maker of the motion. He references a religious context in his comments, and so will I then, following his lead. Yes, we are all God's children. We all have a spark of divinity in us and therefore are worthy of respect.
This is purely demonic, bro. So she's going to use God, right? Who, believe it or not, arguably, whatever, believer, non-believer, doesn't matter. She's going to use God, who created these little boys and these little girls in the grand scheme, to say that basically he was wrong and those little boys are actually little girls. Meanwhile, there's stories all over the place of, girls' basketball teams forfeiting and getting the crap kicked out of them in swimming and track and field. The list goes on. But now, this old woman, Crypt Keeper Pelosi, with her dentures falling out of her mouth into her glass of vodka, wants you to know that you're a bigot if you don't allow little boys into the little girls' room.
Respect. And that spark of divinity that is within us, insist that we respect it in others as well. So recognizing that we are all God's children, I rise in opposition to this legislation because trans kids are all God's children, belong in sports, in schools, in books, in families, and on teams. It's really important for us as leaders in our country to speak with respect for all of the people in our country. Trans kids listen and hear what we say, and we do not want to do them harm for whatever purpose on the floor of this House.
Okay, look, this is crazy. It doesn't matter. She rambles on for a couple more seconds there. But the point here is, if you needed any more proof that this radical gender agenda is completely demonic, right? There is no way that 30, 40 years ago, an 83-year-old woman would be going to bat for this. And the reason she is doing this, along with all the other gaslighting and telling you that Joe Biden is amazing, and Gavin Newsom telling you Joe Biden is amazing, and just lying directly to your face. But the only reason that this old woman, who would never have done this, maybe even a decade ago, but that aside, she is doing this because that is their final ask. If anybody buys into that, it's automatically a Democrat voter. Okay, so if you are going to believe that Dr. Admiral Rachel Levine is dressed up in a woman's army suit telling you that the air is racist, then you will believe anything. So hands off of their voters, because their minds have already been controlled by this particular faction, and you going after them is basically going after us because they're ours. We completely controlled them. And in San Francisco, in the Tenderloin district of San Francisco, one of the country's most notorious open-air drug markets, maybe only second to Kensington, Philadelphia, what do you see? They're changing the banners, the bus stops in San Francisco, in the Tenderloin specifically, to the transgender colors, because that is a shield. So not only is it their final most essential ask that anybody who buys into this narrative is clearly going to vote for them. But it's also a shield. So if you don't want to walk over poop and needles and around tents in the Tenderloin, then we're not going to clean it up. We're going to put up a transgender flag and say, well, now these transgender people are here. And if you don't like that, then you're a bigot. Look, this is all obviously completely insane. Greasy, gaslighting Gavin Newsom, Crypt Keeper Pelosi. They're kind of weirdly related through marriage or something like that. Whatever, doesn't matter. Ignore that. Ignore what's happening in California or San Francisco under their direct watch, and just know that it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter how you feel. Don't believe your lying eyes. You answer to us now. And look, I welcome anybody to back up some of these crazy claims, even just one of these crazy claims, but they can't, because it is only blind allegiance and aggressive opposition. That's why they're going so ham. That's why they're going so crazy, is because I guess they're trying to whip up what little base they have left into an absolute frenzy, because you can't convince anybody who can actually see what's going on that any of this makes sense. As a result, they are spewing completely irrational talking points and absolutely oozing desperation.
For the children.